Welcome back, you guys. We are going to continue to practice our amazing secondary source writing skills using our good friend Abe as we look at a period of really big changes. This is after the Civil War, where we see rapid industrialization massively changing the United States. And so as we talk about change, there's always opinion about changes. Are the changes good? Are the changes bad? Who do the changes help? Who do the changes hurt? And so historians have written a lot about this time period as we look at how these changes and what can we say, what is our opinion about these changes. And so we're going to look at the time period from 1865, which is the end of the Civil War, up until 1898. And we are going to look at some historians' opinions about these changes and use our strategies of Abe to figure out how to write about these opinions of these changes. All right, remember, we are going to be looking at opinion pieces. This is different than a textbook paragraph. A textbook paragraph is going to say, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking at someone's opinion. Do they like it? Do they love it? Do they hate it? Do they feel like it was different? And so we're going to use our question A to decide, okay, what is the topic and what specifically are we looking for? So same thing, we're noticing that we're looking at difference, so we're going to assume that these two people have opposite opinions, and we are going to look specifically at the topic of business leaders. And once again, what do we think about these business leaders as they rise up in power? And then we've got to, for B and C, provide some examples to support the arguments that are being made. So go ahead and hit pause, read through these historians' opinions. Remember that they're opinions, and so are they saying it's good, bad? What are they saying? And then we'll look at how we can write this. All right, so question A wants to know what's the difference on their opinion on business leaders. So remember, we have to provide the answer. So what is the difference? But they're providing an argument, and so we have to support that argument. And so we're going to continue with our because that naturally leads us to giving an argument. And then we're going to see how they are different from each other. So this person writes, Josephson and Brand's interpretation on business leaders differ on the positive or negative influence on the economy. Josephson argues that business leaders after the Civil War succeeded by incorporating dishonest practices that allowed them to get ahead. But this in the end helped the economy because it made business more efficient and profitable as the new practices were used. However, Brand argues that business leaders not only benefited themselves but others as well, because as the main businesses grew, it also led to the growth and development in other areas and businesses as well. And so remember, they're making an argument here. So Josephson's arguing that the business leaders, yes, used dishonest practices, but helped the economy because it made businesses more efficient. Brands, however, says, okay, not only did the business leaders grow and were benefited, but others as well, because it led to the growth and development in other areas. And so let's look at how we could support these. Remember, Josephson's saying, look, the business leaders, yeah, they used bad things and it benefited them, but in the end it helped the economy because it made things more profitable. What's an example that we could use to say that? Well, one example from the time period 1865 to 1900 that supports Josephson's interpretation is the development of monopolies by leaders such as Carnegie and Rockefeller. So here's those practices that he's talking about. They're specifically going to say, look, we're going to talk about monopolies of those leaders. So they're going to give some further connection with the argument that in the end it did help the economy because new practices were formed. So they say, as Rockefeller increased his ownership of oil refineries, he was able to use strategies that often put small owners of oil refineries out of business. However, while these practices were often unfair, as argued by Josephson, it led to a streamlined process within the oil refineries that increased the efficiency and the access to the oil. So what do you think? Do you feel like Josephson is right in that even though they were dishonest practices, it made it more efficient in the end? Or should we look and see how Brand says it benefited more than just the business leaders? One example from the time period 1865 to 1900 that supports Brand's interpretation is Andrew Carnegie's belief and application in the gospel of wealth. So here's our example. Andrew Carnegie, while building a large steel manufacturing empire, also gained a large amount of wealth. He then used this wealth to fund many charities that helped those who were not as wealthy. This supports Brand's interpretations that the wealth generated by the business leaders then helped those who didn't own the large businesses. So who do you think is right? Can you see the argument? And can you see how we can use historical examples to do that? That is what you're writing. You're writing about their arguments. You're writing about their examples to support it. And because you're writing about arguments, you have to give their answer and support their argument with them and explain it further through because. So you are going to write an argument from time period number 6. And remember, we're looking at opinions, so don't be afraid of looking for someone's opinion. This is not a textbook paragraph. This is someone's opinion about a topic. And because it's an opinion, it's going to be written passionately or emotionally, or they're going to give you reasons. So you need to find those reasons for question A, explain the reasons they're giving, and then find examples to back up their examples.